Hi, I'm Max Eberle. I'm a professional pool player, and I'm here today to shoot some shots with a qblis chalkless pool cue tip. Hey guys, Max Eberle here, and I'm going to get into the benefits of the tip. First, I wanted to show it to you. This is the slip-on version, so I've slipped it over this old Mucci shaft, and I wanted to show you that there's zero chalk on it. It's been cleaned off with alcohol and a paper towel, and that little blue line is a piece of tape that I put on there just so the ferrule wouldn't slip off. Now here's a famous masse around the triangle. Now this tip puts a lot of spin on the ball. This is Mosconi made this famous. Made it on my first try. I think that's why I was so happy. Now here I wanted to show you just how much this tip grips. It's all the way on the edge over there, and it's still holding on to the cue ball. Now I'm going to run through a series of shots, draw shots, and just so you can watch, what this tip can do. Here's a draw shot. Now, of course, the obvious benefit is, well, you don't need any chalk at all. And we're used to using chalk. Chalk is a good thing, especially on a leather tip. But there's certain cases where not having chalk could be a good thing, like for bar owners who don't want to constantly be losing the chalk and having the chalk get into the table and having to recover the cloth a lot because of the chalk wearing out the cloth and making it dirty, more dirty than it would be. So here's some more shots. And I'm a master chalk guy. I still use leather tip and master chalk, but when trying this, I finally actually gave it a shot and played with it, and I'm very surprised at what this could do. There's an example of a follow shot with high left. The interesting thing is you get more spin with this tip with less effort because it grips the cue ball so much. So you can hit the ball softer and get more spin, which is kind of weird, but it's amazing what you can do with it. So you get more spin with a softer hit. The tip actually doesn't wear down. They're guaranteed for life. There's a lifetime warranty on them. So you can check out the details on the website. It'll keep its shape. It'll keep the table clean because there's no chalk. So that'll make the cloth on the table last longer. Now that's a famous shot. That's a famous shot. And that was my grandfather's road shot. And you can see I hit that relatively soft. And there's no audio on this because of the music, the copyrights of the music. So I'm sorry you can't hear the sound of the shots and the tip hitting the ball. So keep in mind, this is a regular deflection shaft from back in the 80s. And I haven't really tried this. I haven't tried this tip attached to a low deflection shaft. Now the one I'm using there is actually a different shape. It's a conical shape of the qblis chalkless pool cue tip that I was trying out. It's a clear version also. The cool thing is you can spin the ball, draw the ball, masse, follow, stop. It's great for beginners who don't know how to chalk, or for people at a bar who are drunk or just they forget to chalk. It's hard to miscue with this. Now a couple of things about it that maybe the cons of it, there's a lot of pros to it, is it's not a low deflection tip, although most deflection is happening in the shaft, is because of the shaft, but with this tip, I haven't tried it on a low deflection shaft, which is what I use. I normally use a Meucci Pro shaft. It's a wooden shaft, and it's a pretty low deflection shaft. And with this slip-on tip on this kind of regular high deflection shaft, there's a lot of deflection on certain shots, especially when you go way off center. So I thought that I wasn't going to be able to play like regular 9-ball. So here I am showing you my attempts at playing 9-ball. And I found that really once I adapted, all I had to do was treat it like it was a high deflection shaft and just adjust my aim accordingly. Just give a little bit more allowance for deflection on my shots. And I found that I could play pool and run the table playing any game using this tip. It's just a different feel. And I'm really curious to know how it would play if it was glued on to a solid ferrule instead of a slip-on tip, because we all know that the slip-on tips, even with leather and chalk, they don't play as good as a nicely installed tip that's actually glued onto the cue, onto the ferrule and the wood, or however that the tip is set up by the ferrule. So this being a slip-on tip with a high deflection shaft, I'm getting a fair amount of deflection, but this is the first time I've actually tried to play some Nineball that day here where I'm filming. And I got to running out actually pretty good. Okay, another one I'm not so sure of is the power draw. You can definitely draw the ball, and I gave some examples already, and there'll be some examples as I'm playing here. But it seems like it's a little bit harder to do a power draw to get a ton of draw, but I can definitely get enough draw to run most tables. Most of the shots that I need, my standard draw shots. And maybe if it was installed and glued onto a low deflection shaft, I could get a better draw. As far as a better power draw. And part of that also is I probably don't need to be hitting the ball as hard as I normally do with the leather tip and chalk on my power draws. Because it puts more spin. So it might not be as necessary to hit the ball so hard. But there's a stop shot, which is similar to a draw. I just gave it a nice stroke, followed through. But I would like to experiment with the tip glued onto a ferrule and a low deflection ferrule and see how that plays. So you kind of have to adjust your game and learn how it plays. But it's definitely interesting and fun just playing with it because it's so different. And another benefit is that you don't lose your rhythm at all. You can just focus on playing and going from shot to shot because you never have to chalk. Now when I play, I have a magnet. I have my chalk at my side, so it's always right there for me. But I still have to pull it off the magnet and chalk it and then put my chalk back and then maybe wipe the chalk off the side of my cue sometimes. But with this, you don't need to do any of that. You can just keep shooting, and just make sure it stays clean. I'm sure every few racks is probably not a bad idea to wipe it down with alcohol or just keep it clean. But again, it's not really getting dirty because there's no chalk. It's not getting dirty from regular chalk anyway, unless there's a bunch of chalk on the table. It might slowly get dirty. But it seems kind of porous. Or it has some kind of texture similar to porous. That's why it grips. It's an interesting synthetic material. So I think there's a place for these today in the game, especially for tavern owners and people who have tables at home and want to try something different and have something else unique that they can show their friends, and they could even challenge their friends. You could say, hey, I bet I can beat you with no chalk. And you might even be able to win a little bit of money that way, because once you put that on, you're not going to use any chalk. And if you practice with it a little bit, you'll be able to run out, and you'll still be able to beat the players who you could beat before, especially if you could beat them pretty easy. But once you practice with this a lot, as you can see, I mean, it's capable of doing just about anything. So yeah, I definitely recommend at least trying it out. Get get one for yourself, and it's a lot of fun. Even if you don't end up playing with it in competition, or just to have a few at home, or if you're a barroom owner and you want to keep some for your players. Now here it looks like I'm trying some kind of combination. Yeah. Okay, I didn't end up with a shot, but check out that draw. So cue ball relatively close to the object ball. This is relatively fast cloth. So I'm not sure exactly how it would perform on slow cloth as far as with the draw shot. But it's pretty amazing. I mean, you can see it's not a gimmick. I mean, it's real. You can play the game of pool without any chalk. And you can move that cue ball around and run out playing 9-ball, 8-ball. I haven't tried any straight pool. This is kind of what I'm doing here. I'm just running off any ball, any order. But because it spins the ball more, I think that means that you don't have to put as much spin on the ball, because you're going to get a little bit more spin out of the little bit of spin that you do use when you don't use that much spin. So in other words, like a half a tip of English with a regular tip, all you would need with this is just a quarter tip of English, or if you equivalent to 2 tips with a regular leather tip and chalk would be just 1 tip with this, 1 tip away from the center. But yeah, it's all about just practicing, I found, and finding out how much the cue ball deflects, and then you just learn how to aim through experience. So I wouldn't say it's really a break tip, because it's kind of soft. It feels a little bit squishy. So there you might want to use a synthetic break tip. There might be a break tip version of this tip. I apologize, I don't know the answer to that at the moment, but you want to look at the website. But you could use any regular break tip. If you're going to play with this tip, you could break with phenolic or hard leather, or just a regular house cue that has a normal tip on there. But as you can see, you can break with this one. But the cue ball compresses the tip, and a lot of that energy is absorbed into the tip, the energy from the cue, and not as transferred as much. Or it could be the fact that I'm using a slip-on tip as well, where it doesn't get as much power and it's not quite as on there, as solid as it could be. So check out the website. The link will be in the description of this video. You can order one, and I believe the warranty is you get 30 days to try it out. You can return it, but you have to try it for at least 30 days, because we want you to see that you give it a chance for 30 days and you're going to like it, instead of you just try it right away because it's different and you want to return it. No, give it a shot, and you're going to find that if you can play pool with some practice, you can play your game of pool and maybe something different, playing some unique and interesting shots with a lot of spin, like you can see that I'm doing here. So thanks again for watching, and hope you try out the qblis chalkless pool tip.